All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for a very, very, very important announcement. Before I begin, I want to recognize our partners who are here with us today. Our City Administrator, Chris Shorter, who has joined us, our Deputy Mayor, Faith Leach, Director Reggie Moore, our Chief Recovery Officer, Shemaiah Kearney, Councilman James Torrance, Pastor Frank Lance, CEO and President of the Parks and People Foundation, Brad Rogers, Executive Director of the South Baltimore Gateway Partnership, Lois Schwartz, Executive Director of the Waterfront Partnership, Lisa Ratliff, the CEO of Kaboom, Heather Darney, Vice President of Community Relations for the best NFL team in the nation, the Baltimore Ravens. I know that Pastor Jerome Stevens, there he is. You should come on up here, sir, is representing Senator Ben Cardin. We also have Deb Haney representing Senator Chris Van Hollen, Bridget Smith representing Congressman John Sarbanes, and last but not least, we have Melly, what you doing? You come on. Representing the fabulous community here in South Baltimore, and Mark Washington, one of our outstanding community leaders who joins us here from all the way from Northeast Baltimore. Mark, I'm impressed that you are here with us in Curtis Bay. We are gathered here today to lay the foundation for a new era of recreation right here and recreation and parks right here in Baltimore by making a $41 million down payment in American Rescue Plan Act funds toward improving our city's recreational and park facilities. This means nearly $10 million, $9.9 million for improvement to city pools, $20 million for city rec center renovation, $5 million for improvements to playgrounds, $1 million for trail enhancements in public parks, and over $2 million for athletic courts improvements here in Baltimore. This announcement is about showing our residents, especially our young people, that we see them, we recognize their needs, and are committed to their total well-being. You hear me talk about equity and how to improve the quality of life of our residents all the time because you all are all important to me. Today, this is us putting our money where our mouth is by providing them with safe, up-to-date spaces where they can develop their skills for life, exercise, and grow their productivity. We are following through on our promises to provide clean and healthy communities, prioritize our youth, and build public safety. Because make no mistake about it, when you're making investments into Baltimore City Rec and Parks, you are building healthier communities, you are providing cleaner communities, and you for sure are helping to build public safety by providing those opportunities. This has been a long, long time coming. But this ARP allocation is just the first step towards providing our residents with the quality recreational facilities they deserve. It is part of a much bigger and approximately $120 million vision for 21st century recreational opportunities in each and every neighborhood across Baltimore. We recognize that many of our young people face challenges in their immediate environments that can leave them feeling isolated and overwhelmed. They are the same young people that are bearing the brunt of inequity in our city, who face trauma and in return are given access to inadequate facilities. They deserve, not just need, they deserve a safe haven, and with our support and our investment, they will have the best that we can provide to them. It is our obligation as leaders to ensure that we do everything in our power to set the next generation up for success. That is how we change the trajectory of Baltimore as a city. Expanding access to high-quality facilities, recreation facilities, parks, green spaces, playgrounds in our neighborhoods is one very, very important way that we can begin to show that investment. Growing up in Park Heights and going to our rec centers, to Wanda Recreation Center in particular, that you guys joined us at reopening last year, I know firsthand the profound positive impact that the Department of Recreation and Parks can have on our communities, on our young people, and our families. When you ask residents in Baltimore what we need to invest in in order to improve our city and make our city better, especially for our families and our young people, they will tell you very quickly, rec and parks. No doubts, no questions, without hesitation. Because our rec centers, our parks, are the beating hearts of our communities, and they can literally save lives. Our vision is for a Baltimore that has high-quality recreational opportunities for young people, families, and older adults across Baltimore's neighborhoods, particularly those that have been neglected, like the one I grew up in, and where we are today here in Curtis Bay in South Baltimore, that as I heard the last time I was in this room talking to the Community Association, gets ignored so much that they said I was the first citywide elected official that came to their community that they can remember in at least 15 years. That is not how we're going to operate. We're going to invest in these neighborhoods and areas first. But this would not be possible without partnership. As leaders, as anchor institutions, and community organizations, we talk about results and making the biggest impact possible in proportion to our investments. The presidents of all of these partners coming together today in support of our communities signals a new spirit of collaboration and a truly unified vision around improving recreational opportunities across our city. We know that the money for rec and parks is a smart, a very wise investment. The $41 million, however, is just a start. There is more to come. We know that there is more money from the state capital projects budget on the way. And I want to thank Senate President Ferguson. I want to thank Chairwoman McIntosh. I want to thank our delegation chair, Senator McCray, and Delegate Smith for the importance of realizing this and sharing this vision. On top of that, our private institutions and nonprofit partners are joining us in this mission. And we are seeing unprecedented levels of investment from our incredible federal delegation. As I often say, the best federal delegation that any mayor in these United States has. And we thank them again, and we thank the president and his administration for allowing us to make these investments. Everyone here today has brought into this vision where young people, older adults, and residents of all ages and races have access to the safe spaces where they can exercise, learn, grow, and feel welcome. And of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't say be involved in some very, very intense competition. This isn't about fixing one rec center here or renovating a single basketball court over in East Baltimore. This is about being ambitious and setting a new course for our city's future, a course that I am committed to seeing through completion. Because we can make these massive changes by making this kind of massive investment into something that we know has helped so many Baltimoreans, not just me, so many more young people who have came through the doors of rec and parks, who played on our fields, who played on our playgrounds, who are now living very productive lives because they had that opportunity. It's now up to us to provide that opportunity in 21st century facilities to this new generation. Now I'd like to turn it over to Director Reggie Moore for more information. Mr. Director?
Good afternoon, everyone. I mean, that's wild, right? That. I mean, it seem like we're somber here. This is big news, right? This is a handshake. This is a clap. I want to start by first thanking you, Mayor Scott, for your continued support of recreation. I totally agree that today is a down payment of years of disinvestment in Baltimore City recreation and parks. But Mayor Scott has been committed to the agenda's overall vision of moving recreation to the 21st century. So again, sir, I say thank you. We also have here some other elected officials I want to acknowledge as well. This Councilman Torrance is with us today. Thank you. And all of our representatives that's representing either the state delegations or our federal government, again, thank you for being here. But our partners, thank you to all our partners that are here today. Because when you start creating a vision, you start talking as an agency, you realize that you can do a whole lot more together. And one of the things that our agency, with the support of my chief of staff and the other senior leadership, is that we want to make sure that we continue to strengthen our partnerships and making sure that we're there to meet our partners meet us, and we can kind of move forward together. So I want to acknowledge them and say thank you to each and every one of them, parks and people, Baltimore Ravens, Waterfront Partnership, South Baltimore Gateway Partnership, as well as there's many other partners that are here and that are not here. Over the last 2 years, Baltimore City Rec and Park has been focused on implementing our Rec 2025 plan, which focuses on our culture, our community, our work, our spaces. Today, our spaces will be center of attention. With the $41 million investment, we will work to improve playgrounds, pools, recreation centers, athletic fields, courts, and trails, just to name a few. But also, as I kind of hit on about our partners, but I just want to highlight again some of the creative opportunities that we've been able to create with our partners, like the relationships that we've been able to develop with Parks and People and the renovation of the Henrietta Lacks Park. Or you think of the waterfront partnerships, and last year we cut the ribbon at the harbor, by far one of the best parks, not just in Baltimore, but in the Southeast. Or you think about those relationships, those conversations that I've had with Brad Rogers, and we've had lunch, and we've been visualizing how we can continue to improve South Baltimore. And soon, and very soon, we'll be bringing you all back to celebrate the ribbon cutting of our Miller Branch Fitness and Wellness facility. But as the mayor stated, we cannot, we have to acknowledge the work of the Baltimore Ravens and what the owner, Steve Bisciotti, has focused on, how he wants to invest in communities and what we was able to do just this summer to open Hilton Rec Center. So thank you all for your continued support. So as we all know, Baltimore City plays a role in the livability of our city. Over the course of the pandemic, I've seen our agency we've been really flexible. And we've gone from closing rec centers to open rec centers for meal sites, Or you think of the opportunity where we had to partner with our Baltimore City Public Schools to open student learning centers as we figured out ways that we can transition our kids back safely into their facilities. Or it was just the virtual learning. When kids was at home and their mothers and their grandparents and whoever was there with them working online, they wanted other opportunities for their kids because they couldn't get out. Or simply, we just wanted to continue to make sure that our parks and green space was open so that people could continue to visit. So that's when you say flexibility, that's flexibility. And I want to close by just really thanking our team. Thanking the Baltimore City Rec and Parks team for being able to be innovative, to be creative, and to be there to answer that call. When we've been asked to open a facility, making sure that facility is open, or whatever the case may be, from storms to just being there for our community. So Mayor Scott, we're so excited about this announcement today. We cannot wait till we get our first shovel in the ground, which I hope will be real soon. So that we can continue to invest in our communities and stay to our commitment. So again, thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Director, and thank you for your wonderful and steadfast leadership in leading the department in a new way, in a way that focuses really on providing the best programming, but also being unafraid to say what hasn't really been said before, is that in order to do that, we need the investments and we need the facilities. We're now going to hear from the two most important voices that we'll hear from today, our representation from our community. We'll hear first from Melanie Thompson, followed by Mark Washington. Melanie?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melanie Thomas. I'm representing the Curtis Bay Community Association and also the South Baltimore Community Land Trust. And it's really important that you all are here, and thank you, Mayor, and all of the leadership and all the representatives here for dedication and recognizing this area and our community, really lifting it up. There's so much beauty here, and we need the investment and we need the partnerships, as everybody talked about so much, right? We need those partnerships. We need each other in order to really move forward. Within the South Baltimore Community Land Trust, we've been working for a few years to get control of properties and burnt down homes right over here. So in addition, in beautifying this neighborhood, when we talk about like recreation and just safe spaces to live, right, we also want to include and think about the homes and the environment and what that looks like. So thank you all again for the commitment and the dedication to our community and other communities like ours. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. First, I want to thank the mayor and his great team and Director Moore of Rec and Parks for just the exemplary work that they do. I am going to surprise the mayor, and I'm going to keep my remarks brief. I do hope we realize how historic of an investment this is, not only in communities, but in the people of Baltimore. There, but for the grace of God and those who have traveled before me in supporting the rec centers, I would probably not be here today. Had it not been for those who stood tough and stood tall with me at Chick Webb. I cannot begin to overstate how important this is. Let us not diminish this day. Let us remember this day for the historic, momentous occasion it is. Thank you.
I've known Mark for many, many years. That is the briefest he's ever been. And Mark, just so you know, Chick Webb is also, through one of the other programs, is going to be getting renovated as well. But we will not be renaming it the Mark Washington Rec Center. And now we'd like to open it up to questions. Ma'am? Nobody, you closer, so go ahead.
I don't know if anybody else has any questions. Mayor Scott, I wanted to talk to you about schools, and I know that Parks and Rec, education, schools, all hand in hand.
So you don't want to talk about Rex?
We do.
Okay.
We're here to talk about this. I get that. The last time you and I spoke, we talked about education and the link between education and crime, and you talked about funding. I wanted to get your take a little bit more on that because we know that school funding, Thornton put more money in. We know Kerwin is coming to bring more money into the education system. Can you explain one example how providing more money to the school system will actually improve outcomes for students, given what we know of the student success rate and how many students are graduating unprepared?
So again, I think this is a question that the best way to answer this simple question is very simply. When you think about Thornton, and the reason why we have Kerwin is because Thornton was never fully funded. So that's a history lesson for you because I know you are not originally from Baltimore. But you cannot again think that this is going to be a response where you're going to just say, oh, if you give them more money, it won't have a difference. When you think about it like this, we went, Mackenzie, from the time I was born until the time I was 29 years old and on the city council without building or renovating schools in Baltimore. Not a one. In the time since then, we have built new or renovated more schools than any city across the country. But that disinvestment, right? If you've never, like I've had to, go to a classroom where the windows didn't go up or down, if you've never had to not be able to use the bathroom or the toilet paper or not have a door in the stall, if you've never had to deal with the things that students have to in our school buildings, because once again, for by and large, the wealthiest state in the wealthiest country in the history of the world disinvested in our school system in Prince George's County and others more than anywhere else. And if you think that that's not tied to the race of those folks, you will be sadly mistaken. When you invest more money, when you go back, and my challenge to you as an investigative reporter is to go and look at the outcomes for those young people at those 21st century school buildings that they now have. Look at the information. Look at how many young people graduate from our city high schools every year and go on to college and then come back home. That's the kind of information that we have to know. When you put money into our young people, it matters. It helps them each and every day. Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When it comes to the violence in schools, we talked about that as well. We know that from 2008 to 2018, the reported number of students who were arrested in in Baltimore City Public Schools dropped by 98%. We've had some whistleblowers come through and say that that's because command staff told them to stop arresting and just release students. to their parents instead. Have you been made aware of any sort of reporting techniques?
So
that
what
have
I would tell
changed?
you is that violence in schools, what has changed there is that our school system is thinking about this in its entirety, right? What we do know is that our school police officers are wonderful. They're trained well. They have a much better relationship with our young people than most police officers do. But also that our school system, our principal leaders themselves are thinking about how to not do what some of the folks that have you ask questions want to do and create these pipelines from our schools to our prisons, and having young people be able to resolve their conflicts with each other in class. Because as someone who went there, who saw young people get expelled for basic fights, right, or basic disagreements, and their lives be ruined, and now they're out, pushed out, cast out into society, it's about having a balance. School police hold young people accountable for guns, for extreme acts of violence, all that every day. But what they're not doing, and what they should be applauded for, not degraded for, is understanding how to have the balance and approach a certain situation with the right response. Thank you.
So you do know about the change in techniques. Is that
You
something
didn't,
you've been
I don't
made
think you
aware of?
understood what I said.
No,
there
I
was
do
no change.
understand.
There was no change in technique. It's called understanding each situation and evolving. If you ask, you should ask questions about whether they've changed technique or not to Chief Ham or to Dr. Santelises. What I am telling you about is what I know for a fact, which happens because I worked in schools, I visited schools, I ran mentoring programs in schools, and most importantly, I went to them. We have a school police department and a school system that understands how to help resolve conflicts and what appropriate measure is necessary, not in some outdated, every young person that gets into some disagreement should be expelled. Thank you. Anybody else? Emily? I'm sure your questions about Rec and Parks, Emily.
Well, as to the, Princeton McKenzie. As to the 120 million that you had mentioned is you wanted to be the total investment, can you give us any indication of where that might come from and how much you might already have in hand versus what you're hoping to
Yeah,
get?
so when you look back, I'll run through it, look back even to starting with fiscal 22, which we're in. You can look at 11 million from city bonds. Project Open Space is 3 million. Project Open Space Local is 4. Through the PCDA, it's another 400,000. Through PAYGO is 300, and other areas there. We'll send it all over to you, and then when you look at the projected things that we have coming down, starting of course with this 41, expected to have about 7.4 in bonds, more Project Open Space funding as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, everybody.